So it's been quick. Now we are going to find out what big data and artificial intelligence can do for us in the life science sector with a panel brought to us thanks to the collaboration of SLAS. Carlos López Molina, professor of in the Department of Statistics, Informatics and Mathematics at the Public University of Navarre, is going to shed light on this subject with the help of Simón Pereira, Business Development Manager at ProtoQSAR, Spain, Ana García Pollo, Vice President of Operations at Overture Life, Spain, USA, Carolina Aguilar, Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of InBrain Neuroelectronics, Spain, and Nicola Richmond, Director of Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning at GlaxoSmithKline, United Kingdom. So here you are. Thank you.
Welcome everyone. It's a real pleasure being here. I'm just the moderator, so you won't be hearing me much during the session, but I'm pleased to present the speakers we have in here. First one, we can start up with Simón Pereira de Rosario. Simón, as Irene said, is working at ProtoQSAR, but also he has a certain trajectory. He's, for example, associate professor at the Universidad Autónoma de Barcelona, as well as, for example, a former coordinator of Bioinformatics Barcelona, which was an initiative to put together different agents from different sectors, public, private, companies, and research. I'm pretty certain we're going to have very nice ideas from Simón coming up today. Second position today, we have here Ana. I'm very glad to present her because she's actually born in Pamplona, and there aren't that many people in here that was born in Pamplona, so I'm very happy to have her here. Actually, she's Vice President of Operations at Overture Life, and she is, by training, I believe, industrial engineer from the same university in which I work, which is also a motive of joy for me. She also has a master's in engineering by the Technische Universität Darmstadt, as well as holding an MBA from IE Business School. And online, you can see them on my back, you can see them in my front. We have two different speakers. First one, we have Carolina Aguilar. Carolina Aguilar is not only the CEO, but also the founder of InBrain Neuroelectronics, which is a company. It's a very interesting company that is working on the interpretation of brain signals using graphene, which I understand is one of the hottest topics I can imagine for for an engineering company as of today. But she's actually a neuroscientist and has been working for a long time in Medtronic, which I believe is a company that requires few or no presentation at all. And finally, we have Nicola Richmond. Nicola Richmond, hi there. She's been working in GSK, or GlaxoSmithKline, for over 17 years, and among other things, she's currently the Director of Artificial Intelligence Engineering, as well as the head of the GSK.ai Fellowship Program. But not only that, she's been working for a long time in everything related to data, the use of data for drug discovery and development, and also she calls herself mathematics. She's a person that is deep into pure mathematics, which is, for the technicians like me, quite a motive of joy as well. I don't intend to speak too much, but for starters, if you wish, and we were planning to start opening the session with some specifics, because as we think of big data, as we think of artificial intelligence, truth is that there's a lot of buzzwords, a lot of keywords, but very often we don't really know what we're speaking about, specifically, in real terms, when we go down to our business, when we go down to our companies, what does it render into? Okay, so what are we speaking, company-wise? when we speak of artificial intelligence and big data. So the first question I wanted to drop to all of the speakers here, I was thinking maybe starting by the people online, as they have maybe a different position, and then we can go for the people inside. So my first question, we could start up with Carolina, for example, will be, what exactly is your company, InBrain Electronics, developing, creating, or researching when we speak of big data or artificial intelligence?
Thank you all. Well, InBrain is developing a set of brain sensors, cortical, deep, and recently through a collaboration with Merck, peripheral sensors that actually apply to the nervous system, detect signals, so frequency bands, that we can relate to symptoms in a way that when we detect this combination of signals and symptoms, we could activate a stimulation, so with bioelectricity, to actually overcome those symptoms and create a therapeutic response. And we do this with a material called graphene, which is a Nobel Prize winner material in 2010. The reason we use graphene is because it's the thinnest material known to man, at atom thick, so we can go to cell-like sizes, and we can combine with modern electronics, so miniaturization when it comes to accessing the brain, it is key. But also it has 200 times more strength than steel, so it's quite stable and biocompatible. So with these features, we really hope to make a significant step on the innovation of brain interfaces, and with that also come to a stage where we can apply neurotechnology and neuroelectronic therapies to create highly personalized therapeutic solutions.
Okay. Nicola, we have you there, I believe.
Hi
Nicola?
everyone. I'm not going to introduce GlaxoSmithKline because I'm assuming that people are familiar with the organisation. But what I thought I might do is just spend a bit of time introducing the AI machine learning organisation. So it's coming up to its third birthday, and we were set up to work very closely with human genetics and functional genomics, really in the target discovery, target validation space, so really trying to understand disease biology. We're leveraging AI to that regard, and in addition to that, we're also very interested in deeply phenotyping patients, and also we're researching into basic machine learning. So, for example, we're very interested in causal inference, geometric deep learning, uncertainty, and AI ethics.
So I will do. So yes. So let me briefly introduce what we also do at Virtual Life. So Virtual Life is a clinical stage VC back company, so a startup in the field of fertility technology. So we are bringing innovative technology to fertility clinics currently, and our mission and vision is to automate the embryology labs. With the purpose of standardizing the process, improve outcomes, and make it more affordable to people. So in the end, we want to democratize. And what we are developing in terms of AI, so there are like different products where we are using AI. The first one is what is called the embryo selection. So we have our proprietary metabolomics testing. So what we do is we analyze in the spent media of the embryos, so the biomarkers that they have concordance with euploidy and aneuploidy, so the health of the embryo, or at the same time the implantation. I don't know if you are familiar with IVF, but the current success rates that you can have in an IVF clinic is like 50%, so it always depends on the age. We can briefly discuss this, but I think in the end, improving the outcome, making it more accessible to people is what we all want to have. When you look at the embryology labs right now and 40 years ago, so you are seeing very skilled embryologists doing a lot of manual steps, doing human supervision in the different parts of the workflow, and I think all what is happening in a lab could be automated with more machine learning, more machine vision, and IVF, also the pipette, more so the part that is happening in a petri dish will also evolve to a more robotics and microfluidics platform. So basically, yes, in the embryo selection, we are having AI, and also we are trying to use computer vision to detect the different steps that happen inside the embryology lab. So it's very technical, but when you make embryos in a lab, so you have like different steps like denudation, fertilization, then it comes like the 5 days embryo culture, and all the events that they are happening there, they have correlation with the viability of the embryos. And what we want to have is to avoid women needing to go to several cycles and really make it more, more efficient. So I think that's basically what we do.
So I'm going to present Product User. Product User is a chemoinformatics company. We work also in structural bioinformatics. We work to make early drug discovery and regulatory toxicology easier, faster, more ethical, and more economical also. So mainly, we work in chemoinformatics with QSAR models. Those are models that allow us to predict the relationship in a quantitative way that chemical structure has with biological properties, biological activities, or toxicological properties. So we can predict a very wide range of properties just from the chemical structure of a molecule, small molecule, peptide, nanomaterial. These properties go from physicochemical properties, which are interesting also in drug formulation, to biochemical properties, pharmacological, ADME, and toxicological and ecotoxicological properties. QSAR is, in fact, probably one of the best examples of the use of artificial intelligence in medicinal chemistry, because it was very soon demonstrated that the use of neural networks for QSAR was a very good way outperforming other types of property prediction. We use, in the beginning, the statistical techniques were more simple, but every day they are getting more and more complicated, more complex, thanks to artificial intelligence. We use supervector machines, we use boosting methods, we use neural networks that allow us to predict in a better way, with a better specificity and sensitivity, the properties that chemical structures have. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, very briefly, we analyze the structure of chemicals and their biological effectors, the biological molecules they interact with. And you have already heard from virtual screening, molecular docking, molecular dynamics. And all of these techniques have scoring functions that tell you about the affinity of ligands and biological effectors. And these scoring functions are also supported nowadays by artificial intelligence, or in fact, machine learning, deep learning techniques that allow us to have better predictions.
Okay, these are actually very interesting projects. I wish we had like a couple, 3 hours for you to go deeper into the details, but we also have a lot of questions that might be wandering around the heads of the attendants here. And for your people that have a certain, say, success in deploying the AI, not only in theorizing the idea, not only in planning to do, but also in having real results. From your experience in the field, do you think the companies are normally prepared to start using this type of techniques? Do you think that companies have to make big structural moves in order to adopt this way of working, this way of reaching solutions through computational methods? Or do you rather believe it's another technique to be added to the portfolio in already complex processes?
I can start maybe?
Sure.
So I will give the example of the fertility clinics, right? So on the fertility clinics, I think there has been a revolution in terms of hardware that it's like in the last 5 years. So you see more and more like microscopes and data gathering systems that they are really enabling this research that we are doing in the different steps. But where I really see the bottleneck is really, and maybe you think it's obvious, but it is very hard to make two embryologists assess in the same way an embryo. So when we are comparing like the different annotation of images, so we never come to 100% concordance in what they want to say. So in the end, when we have to annotate the images, we need to have senior embryologists, junior embryologists, and we never go, I don't know, like the threshold of the 80%, maybe it's a very positive one. So the long story short, but I think in terms of hardware and how to interact with the clinicians, we are like looking or experiencing some advances, but I think that it's also a mindset thing. So we should consider that the embryologists that they are going to be in 10 years from now, they will not be the same. So we have to reinvent this role. Maybe they go towards a more research function and less of a pipetting. So in the end, I do a lot of manual manipulation of samples and all this stuff. So where I really see the bottleneck is more on the human part rather than in the hardware part, and how to really interact with that. Also, what we are facing, and then I pass to two others, is because any medical device has to be approved by the FDA and the CE mark. So the regulatory pathway is also a second bottleneck in our case. So the FDA is starting to accept that there are some medical devices that they will be based on AI, based on neural networks. They are, and what is really important, and maybe that's also very technical, but it's relevant in our field, is that you have to find what is called randomized and prospective clinical trials that demonstrate that your technology is not just working like once, but you can demonstrate that it's always happening in the same way. So that will be at least my perspective from the fertility clinics. I don't know what the others have to add.
Carolina or Nicola, you can speak as you wish.
I completely agree. In a regulated market, there's that additional hurdle that needs to be passed. But I also agree that at the end, well, first you have to have an intent, right? So you have to want to do it. And therefore, there's always a resource planning there, exercise to be made. Second, I think you have to understand what are you going to do, because otherwise you can get very easily lost on what it can be done. I mean, there are different techniques, there are different school of thoughts, and you have to understand what is the purpose of what you are intending to do. And finally, you have to find the people that I agree is the most difficult, because in our case, we took a while, and we are taking a while to find the right knowledge people. So we could have signal processing engineers, but those signal processings probably cannot really code. We can have phenomenal coders that probably don't know about signal processing, and to find all that you want to do in one person is very difficult. So you have to really plan on a team that has all these competencies and can synergize to actually achieve what you intend to do. But then once you have the intent, you know what you want to do, and you find the people, then I don't think it's hard, because there's a lot of tools that are emerging to actually facilitate this in the cloud, and in many ways. I think the future, one of the hurdles is going to be the computing power to gather all this amount of data, and do real-time algorithms that provide therapeutic responses. So, we are looking at quantum computers and other alternatives there, but I think that for now we should be able to produce good results.
Nicola, as as a head of AI engineering in GlaxoSmithKline, I believe you have a privileged view to see how AI fits into a larger corporation, a corporation that has many lines of business. How do you see the AI? How do you feel it has changed what the company was, the real impact? How do you see that fitting?
Yes, that's a really great question. So we've already heard about data being a bottleneck and access to skilled practitioners being a bottleneck as well as compute. I guess the thing that I would add from a GSK perspective, and I guess this is the case in other large pharma organisations, typically those that have been going for a long time, in a sense, there's a cultural barrier as well. Bench scientists are used to generating data to answer a particular question in mind, and the whole sort of experimental design is really based around a particular question. And I think, one of the epiphanies that we've had is recognising, well, those that are already practiced in the art of data science have known this for a while, but convincing senior leaders that data are really valuable and have reuse capability is really important. And I think it's that cultural barrier to generating data for the purposes of modelling rather than the purposes of answering a specific question. And I think once we've made that shift, then I think we're golden.
Okay. Yeah, Simon, you've been in a cluster that includes private and public research and development. How do you see that barrier, that shift Nicola is speaking about? What's your perspective?
Yeah, so that's in fact one of the things that I wanted to talk about as well. So as Anna said, you were asking, are companies prepared? In drug development where we are, or for who we are working, they have to be prepared. So there is a huge need for artificial intelligence to improve the very bad rates of money and time that are spent in drug development. And these rates are not getting better, but they are getting worse with time. So there is a huge need. This revolution has to come. But we do find sometimes it quite difficult to convince people, as Nicola was saying, to change the culture from what we are used to do, or from what our customers, our collaborators are used to do. And you see it also when you're working with universities. This is something that we also saw when I was working at Bioinformatics Barcelona. One of the things that you could see is we were talking before, we know that we need specific profiles to work in this very complex and intersectional world of artificial intelligence for drug development, for life science. We need changes, we need people prepared to work for us, but it's very difficult to change, to make new programs, to make faculty programs, bachelor degree, etc., that can be very quickly adapted to the needs. We also see this in the company. The needs are changing all the time. There are new tools, new software, and when you're a small company like we are, or when you're a startup, and there are many here, it's very difficult that all of your people in the company, your technical people, they are up to date of everything. We have seen this with COVID. It's famous with COVID now, but the same thing happens with artificial intelligence. It's very difficult that people is up to date. So we have to change the cultural mindset to promote this.
Yeah, that's interesting. In fact, that takes us to the next point we wanted to go through, which is the golden keyword is recruiting. Okay, we're talking of a culture shifting. We're talking of going through a barrier. We're talking of data-driven thinking, so changing the mind. So what's your opinion on the idea of recruiting in two different ways? Which do you think is the most relevant profile for this field? And also, what would you recommend to people that is already working in the field and is trying to push their careers to the mix of big data, artificial intelligence, and biopharmaceutical or medtech companies. Which will it be your opinion on both recruiting and also recycling careers? May you start,
Should I
Anna?
start? Okay. So, well, first, the first point is that I work for a startup, right? So, in the startup, we try to to look for very hands-on profiles, but they are also flexible on the mindset because so as the company grows. There are some shifts in strategy, in the product strategy, so you have to be able to adapt to different environments. I think the point of AI, it's becoming critical because we don't find people that they are already or that they did in the past what we are doing because we are the first one launching this product. So maybe in 3 years from now, our competitors will try to buy our people because we are doing it for the first time. But I think the fact that we are having so much data available, right, and how to process this amount of data very quickly. So this will be, for me, a very important skill. Of course, the soft skills that we need because we are in a very ethical business, right? So we are deciding or selecting embryos that they are going to be future babies. So we have to have people that they have ethics, that they have soft skills, but on the other side are able, as a qualifier, to deal with tools like AI, because AI is a tool in the end, to process this big amount of data and make it, help the company make the right decisions, right? So maybe it sounds very, very high level, but that's how I see it, a combination of really understanding the tools of AI, but at the same time, not forgetting humanities, ethics, or whatever that AI cannot really solve for our company, right? I don't know if it makes sense or there are other perspectives to that.
It makes sense if you find them.
Yes, I know. It's very hard. It's very hard. So that's also why working with universities, we were discussing that it's key. So to build the right talent pool locally in Spain, or we are. I mean, I haven't mentioned it before, but although we are a company with investors from the US, well, our CEO, that is Martin Wasarski, a serial entrepreneur, convinced our investors to build all the engineering team and all the operations in Spain. And in the last 3 years, we have hired a team of 50 between engineers, embryologists, geneticists, statisticians. Like it has been for us very hard to find the right talent, but I think we are in good shape now. And I think Spain is a great country to find this talent. And as we are all, I think all the universities are reinventing themselves. I think it's really a good strategy to try to find the talent locally and not look just globally. And yeah, so to that one, I guess we are going to see a lot of evolution in the upcoming years, that people will know about genetics, they will know about data, computer vision in most of the cases, because robotics and computer vision is also another area where I think now with the drones and other products like autonomous vehicles, there has been a lot of improvement in the technical knowledge. So that's also helping us for our robotic department. So, but yeah, so as a summary, I would say that yes, so it's hard to find them. There is no like one-to-one job description that we're looking at, but I will try to get to this balance, right? To really understanding and making aware that our future people, they have to process like a bigger amount of information, make more decisions quickly, adapt to new environments, and not forget that in the end, if you are dealing with ethics and you are dealing with patients, so there should be the humanities there.
Carolina, you're also CEO and co-founder of another startup. Will your impressions be similar regarding the profile of the people working in the area?
Yeah. In our case, we start traditionally by posting our job profiles on our web and on LinkedIn, and we were not successful, right? These are very highly specialized profiles that, because if you put an advertisement about a job profile, everybody's doing AI, right? So, I mean, it's a very easy word, as you said, buzzword. But then getting on the depths of AI and really understanding who can't turn an idea into an outcome in our case, it was very difficult. So we had to go through recruiters, specialized recruiters on AI, and also in our field. We had to go through, the Python library or, like a specialized sites where we find these people in a more in-depth way for what we want, and then really create a group of people that could achieve this mission, not just one or two. Like it has, as I said, some of them have certain skills, and in our case, for instance, signal processing was one key, but the others need to do coding and machine learning algorithms, and there was not one person that we could find all those things in, right? So we had to create all these different profiles together to make it work, and we are still working on that. And then we were finding very academic people. So people that have been in universities doing great work, but then to industrialize that is a different story. And to comply also with the documentation and the regulatory path that we have to follow. So it's there is a lot of work to do there, but as everybody's saying, we are starting, so we have to do it. I think for others to come in the future, it will be easier, and for sure, it's a field where there's a lot of talent starting to emerge. So in our case, we do Spain, but we don't limit ourselves to Spain. We go where the talent is, and we work with anybody online. Could be the US. I mean, we literally go where the talent is. We cannot wait to find those profiles only in Spain or only in Europe. I mean, we focus in Spain and Europe, but if we find someone in Asia and it's great, we also take it or her.
Okay, so after the experience from two different startups, and if you allow me, Simon, we can ask Nicola. This is the totally opposite side of the ring. We're speaking of Nicola, who's head of the, as I say, the JSK.AI Fellowship program. So I'm guessing there's a lot of experience in there in recruiting, filtering, understanding the profiles. So not coming precisely from a startup, but from a big company. What's your opinion on the profiles and the recycling of the people in the field, Nicola?
Okay, so first of all, I just want to echo what's been said already. Trying to recruit people in this space is very challenging. We're competing with the DeepMinds and the Googles and the Facebooks of this world who, quite frankly, typically pay a lot more than we do in the pharma sector. So this was in part why we set up the GSK AI Fellowship Programme. So, what we're really after, what you would call unicorns. We need people that have the technical ability to understand the machine learning side of things. They need to be able to write very robust code that is deployable. They need to have some understanding of software engineering best practice, and ideally they need to know about the pharmaceutical domain in our case. And the fellowship program, which I'm going to plug here, if I may, we're taking in early career machine learning researchers, and they spend 2 years with us, and we're actually, during that period, honing their software engineering skills and teaching them about the pharma industry and how we apply AI to solve our problems. I'm trying to find people that already have this profile is extremely difficult. And then the other thing that I wanted to say is that having looked at, I've focused predominantly on the UK. There aren't actually that many universities that offer bachelor's degrees in artificial intelligence. Normally, people come with a background in mathematics or computer science or physics, engineering, and then they might typically pick up these skills along the way, either through previous jobs or maybe they've done a master's. And I think encouraging universities to offer bachelor's degrees would be really quite useful because, as has already been mentioned, AI is a very interdisciplinary subject. that would also help with I guess, people wanting to reinvent themselves too. As a company, we encourage people to go and take degrees and do other courses. And I would say actually that for those that do want to retrain into this field, there is a lot of online material that is actually top notch. So people can retrain if this is something that they wanted to do.
I think the very interesting topics are coming around this from the, say, the human side of the profiles that Anna was saying, but also Nicola is centering a little bit down to these hybrid profiles, like would you know both, or maybe you come from one field and you move to the other. What's your opinion on this movement in between fields, Simon?
Yeah, that's something that I think it's very important. I think Nicola was referring to unicorns, and it's a very particular profile. Anna was talking about you need a humanitarian mindset, so kind of a third culture abilities. But when you work, as is our case, in artificial intelligence or machine learning techniques applied to drug discovery, you are not living in one world. You are living in two worlds at the same time. You're in an intersection, and you need to speak both languages. There's something very important to say, that you may learn or speak these two languages, the language of biology, of drug development, of chemistry on the one hand, and the language of artificial intelligence, machine learning, computer science on the other hand. You may speak them as a person, and that's perfect. That's very difficult because we don't have specific profiles. We are working on them. There's work being done in bachelor degrees of bioinformatics, for example. We don't have that in chemoinformatics, and that would be something that that we need, because we are working in this particular field, and we don't find very specific profiles. At least we don't find them in Spain, but I will talk about that later. So you have to speak the two languages as a person or as a team. You have to have the soft skills are very important. I know everyone says in their curriculum they have very good team working abilities, but it's not only that word. It's not about the word. You really need to be prepared to talk with another person who maybe will not speak your language. You will speak biology, you will speak chemistry, and you have to speak with someone who talks computer science, and you have to build something together. And you really need team abilities there, because otherwise things will not work. Also, you need to be very active, proactive in your own education. So we are spearheading research. We are at the forefront of innovation. So we were talking about this before. There are new tools every year. Every 3 years, you cannot do what you did 3 years before. So this is not a comfortable profession, let's say, or a comfortable field. You need to work and learn a lot. If you're comfortable with that, that's perfect. Otherwise, you will maybe not feel so well. And then also international teams. So we recruit a lot in Asia as well. We have recruited from other countries. You have to go where the people with the abilities you need are. You have to really think global, not just in terms of customers. Of course, you want to sell to everywhere. And you want to have collaborators also everywhere, but you have to think also global for the profiles that you need.
Yeah, I think we somehow all agree in that idea, how complicated it is to mix people that have different backgrounds and put them to work together and to understand each other. Well, around the time we have, I would like to ask the audience whether there's any question they want to pose to the speakers. Otherwise, we can continue the debate, but we'd be more than happy to answer any question you may have. You can answer as your wish.
Yes.
Hello. Thank you very much for all your insights. So my question is from a layperson. So I'm not skilled in artificial intelligence. What I know is that it's very fashionable nowadays. I think it was Nicola who said that. So everybody is saying that can do artificial intelligence. So can you please tell us what is not artificial intelligence? I mean, what is the limit of the border between computational sciences and when artificial intelligence starts?
You can, Nicola and Carolina, you can answer if you wish, or we can just leave the floor
Well, I
for
think the
Anna
question
Simon.
was for Nicola, no? More or no?
Yeah.
Sure.
So I have a view. So I think one of the key differences with artificial intelligence compared to, I don't know, not artificial intelligence is with AI, a machine is learning the rules of the game, as it were, by playing. If you think about AlphaGo, so the DeepMind software, whereas I'd say what isn't artificial intelligence is where you're programming the rules of the game. So you're telling the machine how to play. So sticking with this analogy, some of the older chess playing games where you've told it the rules of the game. So I'd say that's a sort of a rough difference between AI and not AI.
I mostly agree. Would you have a different opinion? Carolina, Simon, Anna?
So I understand the question. Oh, I understand the question because I would say even in the technical bibliography, there are lots of definitions on what is and what is not artificial intelligence. Sometimes we even joke because some of the broadest definitions are in fact the same that computer science. So what you have definitions like artificial intelligence is everything a computer can do, which is smart. And then you have to define what's smart. I think the precision that Nicola gave, we would be there probably also synonymizing with machine learning. But I think that's a safe bet to take aside what is not artificial intelligence and to be on the safe side of the buzzword.
Well, maybe a comment, but I think I agree with what Nicola was saying. So for me, the difference is automation also in a way, right? So when you program or you do mathematics, so you are kind of knowing what is happening inside. And when you do AI, so in the end, you are not supervising all the decisions, and it's kind of automatic what it's happening, right? So then we can maybe debate if we were having this conversation before, if it's a black box, or we really need to understand all the hypotheses and all the steps inside this black box. But for me also, so AI, if I make a definition of it, I will go more in how to make decisions in an automatic way with the current database that we have. That would be my definition. But I don't know if Carolina now or somebody that can agree or.
Yeah, it could get so technical, right? Because there are many different classifications of artificial intelligence and degrees within the different categories, supervised learning and supervised learning. Yeah, at the end, the aim is the automation of the automated intelligence. But for me, for instance, an intermediate step where you are actually understanding which algorithms do you want to recreate with the intervention of a human person could also be the initial stages for machine learning, right? I mean, the objective is clear, but to get there, you have to take certain steps. You just don't put the machine to learn and supervise whatever, right? So you have to have a framework and a method, and there are steps to get to that goal. So there's some, I mean, artificial intelligence for me is that, those steps. What I don't agree that is artificial intelligence is any quick statistical analysis that give you a result, and many people call it AI, right? So yeah, there's a lot of discussion that we could have around that, but I totally agree that the goal is that automation and that supervised or unsupervised learning, but learning.
It's a very interesting point of view from the technical, from the say business side of all this field. In the technical side, we tend to say that artificial intelligence is what we're going to do next. So it's always whatever you're going to do next. I think we believe we have another question.
Hi. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to formulate the
We
question.
cannot hear you, sorry.
I cannot touch the microphone, so apparently I cannot. Hello? Okay.
Yep. Yep.
So no, I was saying that I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to formulate the question well, because it's a bit of a mess in my own head. So what I see is that there's, at least in the drug discovery field, there's quite a number of companies that are applying artificial intelligence. They seem to go to the same place to look for information. Some of them will use natural language processing to extract information from bibliography, others will use databases, but at the end, it seems that they are accessing the same pool of information. So maybe Nicola can answer better. So if you have to find a partner, Nicola, what makes this artificial intelligence partner better than other? I mean, is how they process this information, or is the access to other wells of information different than other companies? I mean, I'm not sure if I made myself understood well.
So by partner, do you mean like an external organisation to your business that you want to work with?
Yeah, for example.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I would say that the data holder has the power in a sense, because whilst we've argued that recruiting people is very challenging, ultimately if you don't have the right data, then there's not much you can do. In terms of partners, yeah, I guess if we were looking to partner with somebody, then we would look at their publication record and check what research they'd been doing, because a lot of the time a group that you would partner with, they might not necessarily have to have the domain knowledge if you internally can speak both languages, as Simon said. So yeah, I would be looking at the track record of what they've done previously and looking very much to academia. That's where a lot of the cutting edge stuff is being done.
And that's a very interesting concept. Nicola said data holder has the power. In terms of partnership, would you agree?
If I can maybe add to that one, because we were also considering, like in the fertility space, we were looking at different companies. I know it's not drug delivery, but it was very interesting to see, when we were looking at the research, for instance, you always see, right, the accuracy and the specificity of the technology in our case. And then we decided to give them like a trial of some pictures of the embryos to see what was the outcome. And because we changed the platform or the way the data was analyzed, we got much poorer results. So I would add that the research for us was important, but if there is a company that understands this specific application better than others, in our case that would have been another winner. I don't know if that's also applicable. Not just the data holder, but also the fact that you can have different platforms and make it more flexible, because it was like a huge, they were claiming 70% under the curve as an accuracy. Then when we gave the new data set, it was under 50%, so it was even worse than the embryologist. So that was a disappointment in our case, and maybe that's also to see, right, how flexible is the technology when you change from platform to platform. I don't know if this is applicable, but if that can help.
Simon?
Yeah, there's something that we can say from our experience in product user here. Well, also there's an adagio in artificial intelligence that you all will have heard of, which is garbage in, garbage out. And that makes, I think, the holder of the data to have the power, because your models, your artificial intelligence models, will be as intelligent as the data were good or not. Some of the things we've seen developing user models and comparing to other user models that are all around there is there are lots of models that maybe the data were not garbage, but they were a small data set. So then when you want to apply it to drug discovery or to toxicology for chemicals, you know that the chemical space is infinite. I mean, there are 10 to the 60th power at least probable chemical entities. There will be no years in the universe to check all of that, even with artificial intelligence. So when you will look for new drugs, you really have to have it covered a lot, or what we call the domain of applicability of your models. You will not be able to apply it with certainty to the data you want. So yes, it's very important to partner and to know what data you will have, and as in our case, sometimes to really look for partners who will create data for you if that's necessary, so that your models will not have garbage in, or that the data set will not be too small.
Yeah, that's interesting. Would you add something, Carolina?
Yeah, to me, this is a very interesting debate, because I believe with what you all have said, but I believe that is not sustainable. There's going to be a point where we will have to share data and benchmark data if we want to understand what are the solutions that really work versus the ones that are confined to those small sets of data that have been clear for those particular outcomes. So what I think is going to happen, apart from standards, there's already some kind of FHIR standards and other standards, data fiduciaries, and we won't own the data, but we will take our data to those data lakes where volume healthcare and contribute to those data lakes that hopefully would be owned by the government or would be public in some way. So I do believe that at some point we'll have to find a solution for ethical data, and to also find a solution to understand which therapies really work and which therapies are based on more marketing claims.
Yeah, I mostly agree as well. It's a very business-oriented but interesting point of view. Well, we're almost out of time, but before we finish, I would like our invited speakers to have at least a last saying, something that maybe we left behind or you wanted to comment. So we can go in the same order we started up, and if I'm not wrong, that was starting with Carolina. So before closing the session, Carolina, is there something you would like to tell the audience, something we maybe left behind in the debate?
No, I want to thank you all, and probably keep on debating the different aspects that are emerging from the use of artificial intelligence, but data in general. I think ethics are a big point in healthcare as well, and in many other fields. So I hope that we can continue the conversation another time, maybe here in Biospain next year. So thank you all.
Thank you very much, Carolina. Nicola, is there anything else you would like to mention?
Yeah, so I also want to say thank you for the opportunity to talk to everybody today. The one thing that I'd like to add that I think we haven't discussed, and again, you know, this is, I guess, a pharma perspective, thinking about diversity and inclusion and the types of patient data sets that are available to study. A lot of these data sets are very biased demographically and ethnically. And there's a danger that if we don't recognise that we're developing medicines that are only efficacious in a certain ethnicity. So I just wanted to call that out because it's something that we're wrestling with in GSK. And thank you very much again for the opportunity. It's been a really interesting debate.
Thank you, Nicola. This is actually a topic we couldn't cover due to time restrictions, but as long as we elaborate on datasets, diversity, the presence of the possible different ethnics and gender, it's a very hot topic, and I'm sad we couldn't have the time to discuss it, Nicola.
No, also thank you. So I think it was very interesting to hear also what the other speakers and like different industries and also like the business perspective. I agree. I think ethics and the bias, I think it's really, we should do another session and bring Carolina and Nicole here to meet in person next time. But yeah, so I think it's definitely a food for thought for, in many senses, what it's really happening and how to prepare our companies for the future in terms of digital transformation as well, because this is going to be embedded in all the different parts of the organization. But in case of the healthcare, I agree. So the role of other institutions, not just the private companies, and how to make sure, you know, like this is still regulated. I know that many people don't like the word regulation, but I think regulation is one step that always comes, right? So you have research, then you have a regulation, and then at some point there will be much more freedom, or then it will. But I think we are going to go through the process, so it's good to reflect and to hear different. So I'm also very thankful for being here.
Well, from my part, I would also like to thank all of the speakers that we have, all of the attendants, to SFBio and Biospain the opportunity to talk about this topic today. My main take is artificial intelligence and big data in drug discovery are necessary. They will be more and more important. Hopefully, they will allow us to save time, to save money, even to save the lives of lab animals and lots of people then. And there are lots of developments coming. I think we should talk in other times about ethics. We should talk about explainable artificial intelligence. There's quantum computing. There's the giant leap that AlphaFold, for example, will allow us to, or the rest of us, to work with. There's lots of topics we could cover in more Biospains to come, but it was really great to be able to make this introduction to the topic today.
Thank you very much, Simon. With this, we need to finish. We have an agenda, we have a schedule, but yes, I wanted to thank the audience for coming, the online audience as well as the inside audience, and very especially I wanted to thank the panel of speakers because, and I'm being completely honest, the level of the speakers we managed to gather for this session is spectacular. I really hope you all enjoy because the voices you heard today, they come from a very, very high ground. Okay. Thank you very much, fellow speakers, and thank you to the audience. With this, I'm afraid we're going to close the session. Yes. We have time for nothing else. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for coming, yes. And I'm hoping we see you again in the next events.
Thank you very much.
Bien, ¿no? Ha salido.
Thank you very much for your great contribution. With which we are finishing this day of Biospain 2021. Tomorrow there's more, so I hope to see you again. It's at 9 o'clock when we'll be getting underway for another day of fantastic speakers ready to share everything they know about health and financing and investing in biotechnology. On behalf of Biospain, thank you for coming and see you tomorrow. Thank you.